Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course I'm joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. And before we go into anything today, this is just going to be a quick Q&A. I want you guys to send us your questions. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can in a short period of time. I'm going to be leaving for Florida in a couple days, and well, in 2 days I'll already be there. I'm not exactly sure what, but I'm going down to see Bob Stanley of Frios in Miami/Fort Lauderdale. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be getting some reports done down there. I'm looking for former Cubans that have run away from Cuba to Florida. I know there's a lot of them there. I wanted to talk to some of them about their conditions living in Cuba and ensure that I'll never be allowed in Cuba again. Not that I ever have been there, nor do I ever want to be there, but all the same, you know, a lot of people like, oh, well, I've been to a communist country. And then it turns out, oh, well, yeah, I just stayed on this nice resort that is the only part of the country that isn't completely communist. So, yeah, that's always the way it seems to be in those kind of cases.
I'll go and see the zoo that, of course, Castro had, you know. It's a wonderful time.
Yeah. Well, and people will be eating those animals in no time. So, you know, the thing is, right at this moment, we're having a glitch that we only seem to have when John's on for some reason, which is that it shows nobody watching because it's not telling any of our subscribers that we're online. Oh, now it goes up. They must have heard me, and now they're jumping on it. But you know, it's funny because sometimes I'll do these videos and we have like 69,000 subscribers, and it just doesn't notify anyone. So for the first few minutes, it's just like it says 0 viewers. But okay, we got some people who actually got a notice. Great. We got a message from Danny Djokovic, who says communist Albania was worse than Cuba. I don't doubt it, but you know, which form of torture and burning alive is worse than the other? In the end, it all comes down to how horrible the communist dictatorships are, or fascist dictatorships, or just this idea of collectivism, the greater good of the greater number, because you know, we say so and we're going to force our ideas down your throat because for some reason good ideas require force. I don't know. We got Rika, the hopeful voluntarist, on. Hello, always good to see you. Okay, so it's showing a few more people for you guys than it's showing for me. I might want to put that on. So we got Dale Cunningham in the city, Lance, SD, Benesser, Halem. Okay, he says, why don't you talk to proud Cubans who never fled and supported their government? I mean, if I was interested in traitors, I'd just watch TV. So you think it's a bad thing to escape starvation and inflation and, you know, gulags and being shot for having a different opinion than the government? Good for you. I think you're in the wrong place, and by all means, please walk right into that gulag you so revere. Anyway, we got 416 Recession Guide says communism. They pretend to pay us, so we pretend to work. And Paul Stevenson says, which Bitcoin companies are legit? It's really hard to say which ones are legit because there's a lot of fraudster companies out there utilizing something that is such an amazing innovation on the market. They're using it in order to commit fraud against other people. I would just stick to Bitcoin. Personally, I'm not going to trash any companies because there might be some really good ones out there, but I would just stick to Bitcoin and not getting involved in the big companies. You know, people had similar issues with the exchanges, and we saw how that played out. But anyway, we are going to get into a report quickly as more people tune in. Make sure to like the video and share it, just so you know, so we can get more people involved in this Q&A. It might have notified some of you, but it certainly isn't notifying a lot of you. Okay, so we got another comment from Benesser Halem, who said, I don't think I am. I actually like your content and I respect your work. It just happens that we disagree on this point. Well, I just, with all due respect, I'm not sure how you watch our videos but then still come up with the idea that it's being a traitor to flee a country where, you know, people are starving to death and you're not allowed to compete on the market at all.
I mean, we'll look at Venezuela right now, where of course Maduro has given, I think it was 1,600 people that he gave you know, a lot of money for, you know, standing up and killing a whole bunch of people that, you know, stood against Maduro. And actually Norway, there's a deportation case right now where there was Venezuelan fleeing Venezuela because he was told to go and shoot civilians, and he refused to, and he left the country. And nobody's talking about that, for example. But that's what it is. If you're a loyalist, towards the government, you're fine. But as soon as you step up against it, just ask one of my good friends at my work. He's from the former Yugoslav Republic where Tito was a dictator, and his dad ended up in the gulag for 3 years getting tortured. So he will tell you maybe a little bit different story of his impression on what a communist government does to you.
And personally, I kind of feel like if you are a loyalist, you are scum with no moral compass at all, unless you're a loyalist, quote unquote, until you escape. We are seeing people, tourists see it all the time in Cuba. They're walking around and they've got these people coming out of the bushes at them. Like, can I sell you this watch? Can I sell you this necklace or something like that? Because there's no real free market. You get punished criminally if you try to sell things without getting extorted dramatically. I think what is going on in Cuba is absolutely disgusting. We've seen it for a long time. There was the massacring of women and children. It's the same old story that we see in so many different communist dictatorships, except for Cuba's smaller in scale, so they weren't able to commit as many atrocities as maybe they could in Soviet Russia or Maoist China. The point is, it all comes down the same way. It's a vast collective cartel that forces their ideas on people at the point of a gun, and when people disagree, they are killed and their families are killed as potential loyalists to their or traitors to the dictatorship, under this guise of for the people, and then the people starve to death. So I just think it's incredibly horrible. Dale Cunningham asks, hey Josh, I recall you were originally a communist. What was a turning point for you? Well, I was a communist for about 2 months when I was 12. And 12 years old. Keep that in mind, so don't hold that against me. That's where communism belongs, for little kids who are dependent on parents, and that parent being a massive collective we call government. But when it comes down to it, I read Marx, I read a whole bunch of crap, and I'm lucky that I did read it because it gave me great contrast when I read, Mises, Rothbard, and Hayek, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, my turning point was seeing Ron Paul on TV in 2006, 2007. And it changed my mind completely. I started reading his books, watching him, watching We Are Change, watching Press for Truth, watching Adam Kokesh, watching all these guys, and then reading Hayek, Rothbard, Mises, these guys. So that was huge for me, and I took it upon myself to leave school and actually learn for myself instead of regurgitate what I was told by a propaganda, or it's a propagation camp, I guess you could say, called the public school system. I was happy to get out of there, and I learned a lot when I left. But anyway, I want to get to this report before we get to any more questions, and we will get to more questions, but this isn't going to be a super long video, just so everyone knows, because we just did a bunch of videos. I still have to shoot another video right after this, and I'm leaving in a day and a half, not even a day and a half, for Florida. So anyway, let's get to this report, because I find this story really interesting. So anyway, Erdogan is in the news again. We've been reporting for quite some time on what has been happening with the Turkish lira, and it's crashing, and it continues to crash. And this, funny little man who declared
Ottoman emperor,
who declared himself president again. I'm sure it was totally a fair election. He's up to no good again. Let's see what he has done this week, because it's gone down to a weekly basis kind of thing now, because the guy's crazy. But anyway, as its Zero Hedge article says, Turkish lira tumbles after Erdogan appoints son-in-law as finance minister. And as the article goes into, while UK Prime Minister Theresa May is losing control, Turkish President Erdogan is solidifying his, with traders closely watching the cabinet Erdogan would appoint after he was officially sworn in as president with enhanced powers, quote unquote. What happened next shocked traders when Erdogan appointed Barak al-Bayrak, the former Minister of Energy, and his son-in-law as Minister of Treasury and Finance, while dropping the last man standing who had any credibility with the market. As a reminder, al-Bayrak Al-Bayrak gained some prominence in late 2015 when CHP lawmaker Aaron Erdem accused Al-Bayrak of being linked to ISIS oil smuggling, claiming that he was able to establish that there is a very high probability that Barrett al-Bayrak, man, this guy's name is crazy, is linked to the supply of oil by the Daesh terrorists. And I'm going to skip through some of this right now to look at the chart from the last little while here. So that doesn't look too good for the lira at all. And for the markets in Turkey, John, you have a bit on this story.
Well, we all know what happens to the lira. Like the Italian lira went bust, so therefore all liras will go bust over time. Of course, it's fiat currency, guys. No, it's I'm just looking up this Zero Hedge article from I believe it's 2015 in November, and what it's talking about, it's the connection that Bilal Erdogan had, which is of course Erdogan's son, and his ownership in KRG Crude, and also the Israeli connection. So they're connected all over, the Middle East. They're all these rich oligarchs are just selling here and there to each other under the table, and of course they benefited hugely from dirt cheap oil. It was about $18 a barrel that they bought it from ISIS for, and then they sold it, turned it around and sold it for at least the double or maybe even more. So it's again, you're just looking at these guys over there, and especially with Erdogan, he had the coup. Remember, we were reporting on the coup that was attempted against him because of his rival that lives in the United States, and he actually is a very weird and interesting fellow as well, which is power hungry. So it's just a big clash between two clans, you can call it, in Turkey, and they're just fighting each other for the greed and power to have control over a nation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it comes down to the same thing that I say all the time, is all fiat currencies eventually revert to their true value of zero. They always have, they always will. Going back to 1024 AD in China and Turkey, this isn't the first time Turkey's been through that by far, but of course we're going to see this repeat over and over again. The lira does not look good, and it's the end result of vast central planning. What can we really be surprised about? We've been talking about the lira as of recently quite a bit, and I feel like it's just clockwork at this point, over and over again. We have to explain the exact same stuff over and over again because it's like it is just repeating over and over again. Hundreds and hundreds of fiat currencies in the last century. John, you have a book just showing vast amounts of fiat currencies all
just in the 19th
down.
century. Like it's just new, and it was over about 200 currencies just in the 1900s that failed or got devalued and so on. So it's just a history repeating itself quite quickly. And of course, it's interesting though, Erdogan actually, the Turkish central bank is one of the few central banks that have been buying gold.
Yeah.
So maybe they're preparing for, the initial default of the lira because it will fall and it's not looking good.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to leave off the Turkish report here, and then we are going to take some more questions. So it's really awkward trying to close a report off like that when it's live, because it just feels weird saying goodbye and then being like, hey, I'm still here, send me questions. But I have to find some place to cut it when I post this video as a separate little quick video when I'm desperate to get up a video on my trip to Florida, because I've got no time out there. I have no idea what I'm even doing out there, but I'm looking forward to it. Never been to Florida. So anyway, if anyone knows of anyone in Florida that I should talk to, let me know, because I want to get some interviews done while I'm out there. I want to make the best of my time. I'm only gone for like 4 days, but still, I hate going even a day without posting a video. One of the main reasons I'm doing this live Q&A right now, because I wasn't able to actually put the time into getting videos done yesterday to post today. So here we are live on YouTube. But hey, we follow that promise, video every single day. Unless I'm on a trip and then bite me. Don't come after me for that. Nothing I can do about that. But anyway, so we got Common SD says, Josh, would love to know your thoughts on central banks' infidelity holding up illusion of safety. Can they not simply keep printing money? What will be the tipping point? And I think we will both go into this. But I just find that, yeah, they can prop up a dead horse a lot, and they will, and they'll continue to pump it up and pump up that bubble, a monetary bubble, but it has to come down eventually. So yeah, they can keep printing, but
but the horse, will rot and smell, and then everybody sees what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think the longest running fiat system is the United States, from what I've looked into. That the United States has one of the longest fiat systems ever, and it's a world reserve currency, and it has a lot of manipulation and a lot of faulty fake from around the world in this magical, invisible currency.
Well, the US dollar is talked about as being alive for almost 260 plus years, but the problem is during that time it has failed time in and time again, and it's been redone or put in together, like it was private, public, so it's just a whole bunch of different type of currencies, and what you got to remember, just because it's called the US dollar, for example, which has been called for so many years now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the US dollar hasn't failed. It's failed ever since, of course, the central bank was put in 1913, then in 33 again, and then in 71 it also failed. So it has failed several times throughout history, and it will fail again because now there's no backing that it has of any form of sort of value. So there's nothing to really save it this time. And of course, as people say, you can just keep on printing. Yeah, you can keep on printing, but then at one point the populace say like, well, all this currency is worthless to me. I'm just gonna use it as fire to heat up my house, because that's what ends up every single time, is that scam that they think that they could print money out of thin air and just keep on borrowing money until it just go on forever.
Yeah, eventually things get so heavy you get crushed underneath. But I see some comments on here regarding someone from Iran, and Dick Diddy says to someone named Shahin, I've missed the comment, do you have centralized banking in Iran? And the answer is absolutely yes. So not Rothschild control does not mean
private central
good.
bank like in Canada.
Yeah, I think it's really important. We got a donation from Michael Holiday for $5. Donation for Thor's suntan lotion. He needs it in the sun. But yeah, anyway. So when we see something like a central bank that's public or private, it doesn't matter, folks. It's about the fact that it's centralized. And there is a central bank in Iran. And it is coercive. And it is terrible. And it is by fiat, by legal tender. We'll punch you in the face if you don't use it. Anyway.
So yeah, it doesn't matter. It's even though that it's not as evil as the Fed or other, accomplices, it's still a central bank, and it's still evil and a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a comment about something that John was talking about earlier. Jim Mather says Venezuela's inflation is now over 40,000%. Their money is worthless. It's more worthless than 40,000%. John.
Well, I looked into it and I used Bitcoin as an intermediary because that kind of shows the black market. And when I run the number, it was 2.2 something million percent that it's inflated. So it's a little bit more than the actual physical number. Yeah. So it's a completely gone currency. What is interesting is, I say, within a year, a fiat currency fails when it starts to inflate heavily. And of course, there's no doubt here, like it just started doing that in late last year in 2017, and now it's almost at its end.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone keeps mentioning on here for me to talk to JSnip4, who is, I love his stuff. I will say, though, he says he lives in Florida. It depends where in Florida, because I'm not traveling all around Florida. I'm going to be in Miami for a few minutes and then traveling down to Fort Lauderdale, traveling up, I should say, to Fort Lauderdale. And that's where I'll be staying. So I'm not going to be all over Florida. So if he doesn't live in one of those places, or in Hollywood, Florida, in between there, it's not going to work out. I might as well just do a Zoom interview with him at another time. And I would love to do that. But yeah, I don't think I'll be seeing him if he doesn't live in one of those places. There's no way I'm traveling all over Florida. John and I just got back, literally just got back. All this traveling is killing me. But we just got back from Spokane. We went down North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, back up through Idaho, Montana, and then Spokane, Washington, and then up through BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan,
9 states,
Manitoba.
4 provinces, 6,000 plus kilometers. It's a little bit too much, Josh.
Yeah, it was. It killed me. It's just something about staring at a road for that many hours just starts to mess with your head. I don't like flying, but and I love seeing the country, and I love seeing all the diversity of terrain. but after a while, it's just absolutely insane. Who's saying that Canada is more free than... because this is insane.
Oh, well, it's a question.
Okay. Oh, it's a question.
It's a
Okay,
question,
yeah. John Roberts says, is Canada more free than America?
Definitely
no.
not.
So, okay, the United States is a worse country if you live outside of the United States.
Yeah.
Canada is a worse country if you live within the country, within the confines of the country. So, there's far more regulations, far more taxes, far more laws, and it's just, Canada is basically on the verge of communism, but really watered down communism, but it's still on the verge because they have a bit of fascism mixed in over here and a little bit of progressive liberalism.
Unicorn communism created by the Trudeau family.
Well, and I see this comment, Jim Mathers, he mentioned Chicago, Detroit, and even California really are bankrupt. States are starting to falter. These are serious signals. Well, on that note, actually, Ontario, Canada has more debt than California. Think of how many people live in California. Okay, so Ontario has a lot of people, one of the biggest populations in Canada. I'm not sure if it's the most. It's a capital of Canada with Ottawa and Toronto. But in comparison to the population of LA, San Diego, San Francisco, it's no comparison. I'm just guessing here, but I have no doubt there's way more people who live in California than in Ontario. But the debt is astronomical in Ontario. They just got a new Conservative government, and I'll say that in quotations. Sorry to disappoint some of you Ontarians, but we got a Conservative premier in Manitoba after like 17 years of the Socialist Party, and they raised taxes 18%. So, it's that whole doublespeak, that demagoguery. You think everything's going to get better, change.
Well, they're all socialists. It's socialism versus socialism light today. Yeah. It's nothing real conservatism and small government libertarian.
Yeah. Oh, and Jim Mathers says 45 million population in California. Well, okay, so that's definitely more. I'm just going to compare that to to Ontario for a second, because let's see. Ontario population. We're in a live stream. Why not? DuckDuckGo needs to be better at telling us things.
13.6 million.
13?
I think it was.
13.6 million people live in Ontario. 45 million people live in California. Yeah. And the debt is like way worse in Ontario. So.
I think it's almost 10 times higher, which is just ridiculous. I remember I posted something on it a little while back, and I think we also did a video on it. But yeah, it's just substantial, the amount of debt that Canada has.
Stephen A says hello from Ontario. We're sorry. We live right next to you. We're neighbors, we're sorry for ourselves as well. So no worries there. It's not our fault. Most of us that are looking at this kind of stuff, these kinds of videos, etc., we're not to be blamed for any of this craziness. This one, John?
Yeah.
SD says, crypto question. Josh, what are your thoughts on centralized crypto solutions? That's debatable. Like Ripple, will they help strengthen banks and prolong their eventual demise? Possibly, very possibly. And I would say it's a bad kind of solution, because we don't want that kind of solution. We don't want them to be propped up. And Ripple is a disaster. Ripple is far more centralized than almost any other cryptocurrencies out there. It is the opposite of the entire point of cryptocurrencies in the first place. Decentralized cryptocurrencies, the whole idea is to escape the banking system and decentralize our lives and not have to deal with the banking system. And in comes Ripple, guys that worked with Ben Bernanke in meetings and everything, and supports vast taxation, as he's mentioned many times.
Yeah, it's very sad to see Ripple up there. I thought that Ripple was the crash and burn, but unfortunately, there's some people that still believe that it has value. And of course, it's most corporate banksters that runs around and want to create their own centralized system.
These people that keep saying it's cheap. What does that have to do? They look at the market cap versus circulating supply, but people, instead of looking at that, they just think,
don't buy garbage coins.
Yeah.
And I consider it doesn't matter how much it could go up. It's a garbage coin because it's run by banksters, and don't support banksters.
Well,
That's
they're
what
like,
do.
They're like, it's 47 cents in comparison to Bitcoin, which is 6,762.
Well, just buy tiny little.
So we should buy it, and it'll go up to 6,007. No, that won't happen. Being cheap means
Ripple
nothing.
Equals BitConnect. I like that one.
Yeah, one form or another. Yeah, Ripple is not a solution. It'll be if anything,
They
one of
should
the
just-
worst downfalls in the cryptocurrency
I think
world.
Ripple should just change their name to Bankster Coin. That would be a way better name for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. So Rika, the hope of all interest, says centralization of anything is begging for trouble. Yeah, exactly. And it's just we've repeated this for 1,000 years now. You'd think we'd learn. Darth Shady says, "Be connect, lol." Yeah. If anyone remembers, like whatever happened to that guy that just shouted.
I think his wife ran away or something.
Oh yeah, that's
too,
right.
As well. Yeah,
Didn't
think
she
it was,
disappear or someone involved
Yeah.
in BitConnect?
I think
his
it
wife
was a
went
wife.
missing.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just all
maybe he killed her
drama.
or something.
Yeah.
She was about to blow the whistle on his scam.
Yeah, Jason as Avito says, "I love BitConnect." Okay, well, if you love something that you probably lost all your money in, anyway, okay, we got CoinBit says, "When's the goddamn, you know what, gonna finally hit the goddamn fan?" Well, we've mentioned this a few times. I say it in like every video. Fundamentals are off the table due to the level of manipulation in the monetary system as well as the market, so you cannot put a date on the crash because it's simply impossible. However, you know what's going to happen. It's inevitable. We are seeing telltale signs. We are seeing all the things that we've seen before, but on crack. And for that reason, we talk about the problems and then give solutions. And it's a lot better than the problem reaction solution, repeat, that we have perpetually forever, and the apathy involved in people saying, well, people have been saying this for 30 years, but it hasn't happened. Well, okay, it kind of has happened. It's just been pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. And again, like I said, you prop up the dead horse enough and it gets super fat, and then it falls on you and it crushes you underneath.
All that it is, you got to look at debt saturation. That's how I look at it, because only when debt becomes unsustainable at the point where there's nobody more to lend to, more stupid people. It could be that people just say, like, I'm not going to get into more debt, and that will also blow up the Ponzi scheme. So it just continues until people actually say, like, enough is enough. I don't believe in this. Either becoming worthless. Like, look at the prices. Just since I came to Canada, prices has gone up like 20-30%, most of it. And you're just seeing, like, listen, like, why is this happening? Like, it's very interesting. And then, of course, people are stuck in, stagnant wages. And then they're really seeing it, because if you were a stagnant wage for the last, like, let's say 10 years, and you didn't really rise very much, well, you lost a ton of money because of inflation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darth Shady says, it's hitting the fan already, but the government has speedy squeegees to clean it up before anyone notices. One day that won't be enough. Exactly. And, one of the things that they're doing is that speedy squeegee is very interesting.
I would like to see Ben Bernanke go around and squeegee after taking his monetary heroin.
But one of the biggest things that they're doing is a cashless society that's centralized. And I saw another comment here that says, I believe, by iDear, it says, I believe crypto was created to fail. And I completely disagree. If they did that, that would have been the stupidest thing they've ever done in eternity, ever. Because they created something that was a beast that cannot be stopped, because other people as individuals can create their own versions of these cryptocurrencies, decentralize that is, and make better on the market, innovate the market, compete in the market, and push any banker coin out. And the individual demand of the market count in the cryptocurrency world. So people see Bitcoin suddenly become this world reserve currency, which makes no sense and doesn't benefit anyone. Then people will run and scream and run to the hills to a better cryptocurrency that is actually truly decentralized. But it doesn't make any sense to even say Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency, because Bitcoin, they can only create 21 million of them, and it will be created by the year 2140. And with that said, they love quantitative easing, fractional reserve lending, all that kind of craziness, and they want that centralized currency, that digital currency, to just go through the banking system. So you don't have these hard wallets, you don't have these private wallets. Anything that you want is tracked and traced, and anytime you want money, you will never have money. You only have it digitally. You'll never have that money. It's all centralized within the banking system through legal tender laws by fiat. That is that term, by fiat. That literally means by rule of law. And that is where there's a huge differing with that, the centralized and the decentralized, keyword centralized and decentralized. And of course, considering the depositor insurance getting pulled away by the or at the ECB, proposed anyway by Mario Draghi, when we have also these bail-in regimes.
Well, they might as well, because in Canada the deposit insurance is 0.39% of actual deposits. So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
A joke, right?
And with a centralized cashless society always running through the banks, they can you can't do bank runs. They can bail in your money.
Well, that's the number one reason they want it. They don't want any more bank runs, because bank runs is always destroy the bank throughout history, because their scam becomes pretty obvious when people find out, oh, these guys only had like 5 to 10% of the actual deposits available for people, and then everybody pulls out, and then suddenly it's like complete mayhem for the bank, and that's their scam. What they've been doing for so many hundreds of years.
And the main form of value is scarcity, application, use, and demand. So with that, looking at using something that's scarce, has application, use, and demand as your world reserve currency, that would be really dumb of them. That wouldn't benefit them at all, and anyone can just use another kind of cryptocurrency to escape that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't benefit them. They can issue promissories, but I don't think that will actually play out well for any currency that they choose for that promissory note, because people have seen that before, and that's not why people are into cryptocurrencies. And that is, it's not gonna, the price isn't gonna inflate insanely. The value isn't gonna, the cryptocurrency itself isn't going to deflate. Or isn't going to inflate like crazy, like they want with Federal Reserve notes or liras or.
Well, they can't print debt into thin air and gain power around the world by buying everything up anymore, because they can't, physically create and in debt and then buy assets for next to nothing and then inflate the price and constantly, buying and owning more and more of the world. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The whole idea of them somehow benefiting off of cryptocurrencies that are decentralized. Look at it this way: cryptocurrencies, there's blockchain, there's digital currencies, there's Bitcoin. They all have certain things in common, but they aren't all the same thing. So let's not conflate them all into one basket and say all of it's evil. The mark of the beast. Anyway, I'm really sick of talking about this, to be entirely honest. I've done a few videos on it, dozens and dozens of videos on it, and I've gone over this a lot. I think you should definitely check out the videos that I've done on this subject matter, because you have to understand, after years or at least a year and a half of nonstop talking about this subject and explaining the same thing over and over again, it does get slightly frustrating. Yet I still see Jason Azevedo saying Bitcoin is shit in the comments. Good for you. Don't invest. I will continue to enjoy Bitcoin and the infancy of the market and how incredibly innovative it is. I don't know why people care so much about what other people invest in, especially when decentralized, like Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or Dash, like I have on my shirt here, or EOS, or all these other things that innovate the market and aren't just currencies, but something you can build onto. Steam, I just think that's what really... I saw a question about EOS and NEO. That's what they are. They're building blocks to create a new internet with applications and everything running on it. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to be sticking around any longer here, because we have a lot of work to do and I don't have very much time left at all. So I'm gonna cut it off here, but I really thank everyone for watching. Darth Shady's right. EOS is gonna rock you. Just wait. Dan Larimer is doing an incredible job. Hope to have him on again sometime soon. And hello from Perth says, "What's up, 52?" Hello from Canada. Yeah, run from the property bubble. Yeah. Oh, hey, by the way, Lauren Southern's now banned from Australia, which is interesting. Which is the Commonwealth is coming against you. We need a country with borders that stops people with different ideas from coming in. Oh, except for when it's mine. Sorry, I hate to say it. It's just so it's so poetic. I'm totally against it though. She should be allowed in all those countries. Anyway, I thank everyone for tuning in, and I appreciate it, and I hope to take more questions from you soon. It's always good to talk with everyone. Here at WAM, it's one of the best parts of this job is being able to connect to the audience, and we have been doing a lot of videos, and we've been growing at a ridiculous rate lately, like insane. It's just been climbing like crazy. So I really thank you all for your support. It's always good to talk to everyone. Yankees says I'm a broken record. Well, there's history is a broken record. Yeah, exactly. And you got to repeat sometimes to get people to understand it. What's that old saying that you repeat something enough, people will understand it or believe it? Well, let's repeat the truth enough until someone believes it, and hopefully it actually works. Anyway, I appreciate everyone watching, and until next time,
Thanks for tuning in. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World
Talk,
Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the